Hey, today I have a Cathay versus Norsca match on this black arc here, a map that fell a bit out of favor with our map packs. It still looks stunning, but it has some quirky strategy requirements, let's call it this, and allowing for some uh, rather boxy approaches, though it being a really large map that also favors mobility on the high ground. But you can already see for what Cathay here is gunning for. They have the usual line of Jade Warriors, then a lot of crossbows. Actually, quite a lot of crossbows, 5 units. Most of them with shields. Not sure why they do that. Maybe they get more melee defense. Yes, they do get 8 melee defense, which is quite substantial. So they could survive, especially with their armor, longer, even if they get in melee with the Norscans. And Fire Rain Rocket, I almost said normal ones, but only as Empire has regiments of them. And Yang Caster with just Dragon Breath, a super strong spell, especially overcasted. And yeah, you can see how they're gonna position, what they're gonna do. They're gonna form a box here, and if the Norscans try to take this point, they're gonna shell them with the artillery and the archers, and Norsca is then in the unenviable position of either having to constantly reinforce units onto this point and sacrifice them to the enemy artillery without achieving anything, or having to crack this box that is gonna form here on the low ground. On the other side, Norsca comes with the usual approach of a mix of several types of marauders, great weapons to crack the armor, though they are very susceptible to crossbow fire with no armor themselves and no shields. Marauder champions, they aren't susceptible to that with both shields and armor. Berserkers, they can really crush, but other than their big HP pool, they are also easily shot. And a continuation here on the other side, cheap marauders, great weapon marauders, marauder champions in the back, so that they don't eat power. Wolfric with just the boat. 56 damage is quite a bit and can, take about a third down Jade Warrior or about half of a unarmored unit like the Peasant Spears here to cleave an opening into the enemy line, and here Searing Doom as only spell, which is interesting. It is quite good against armored unit because it has this 30 pure armor piercing explosion damage on each of the projectiles that come down, and thus they are good at clearing Jade Warriors. And now I speed up. Units have already moved a bit forward, so yeah. Cathay doing some small attempt of first taking this point. Depending on what Norsca does, they will completely cede this point probably early on to not have a single isolated unit and rather make use of their artillery, which should be about coming in range to shoot into this blob. And also here the caster could start going after some units like the Murder Berserkers here would be a very valid target, and Norsca has nothing to even annoy this caster. He could fly everywhere and be completely unbothered. Maybe there's a Manticore coming out of reinforcement, but I believe the caster is way faster than a Manticore would be. And if you have a cheap spell, a single cheap spell, it needs a lot of time to get all your magics casted out, so you should start early as possible, even if the situations aren't the best possible ones. You should start early. Otherwise, you're then in situations where you have a lot of wins, but your infantry is getting overrun, and that's also not what you want.
Keep it from the foe.
Here we see a lot of the famous friendly fire of the Fire Rain rocket. They are really known for doing that. A lot of the rockets drop way too early and hit your own units. Like you see here, a lot of goes down way before the unit. So just going with crossbows after this wouldn't. Can see the value on them. They have 36 value, so all of this half health Jade Warrior was friendly fire, which definitely wasn't worth it. Two Fire Rain rockets are a dangerous pick. As I said, due to the friendly fire, they start to get useless once everything you have, or more, everything your enemy has is bound in melee with you, because you do so much friendly fire if you shoot in the into melee blobs that it's like a 1-for-1 trade, and usually your opponent has more infantry than you if they doing such approaches. The Emperor's Crowman probably gonna drop a bomb here on the Great Weapon Marauders. Oh, an isolated Iron Hell Gunner. No, they get something to support them. Wasn't a perfect hit, but good enough. Got nerfed quite heavily, with good reason to do so. And yeah, we see a bit that Cathay maybe is getting a bit overrun on some fronts. Though, the Norsca player has 2k value stacked, and thus we see no reinforcement coming. That is a game-losing play. If you're doing such an assault, you need to constantly reinforce that, because your opponent, and you need to start early to reinforce that, because your opponent has a way shorter way into the front lines, if you compare that. So you need to start early, and at best also getting faster units. This, I don't know if I would have casted them. I would have finished this unit off, because right now it still sits at almost 80% of their models, so it's still 80% efficient of their efficiency is there. So finishing them off would be good, and here almost no models died, so the spell didn't have no effect, but it takes a long time until the effect gets noticeable and more casts. So you haven't achieved an immediate success here. So okay, Norsca has finally started to summon some units again, though it's a little bit late. The army is basically done for currently. Here it got completely crushed. Here we still have some remnants that are now going into the juicy bits of the archers, because the front line is gone. Because Cathay, frankly, maybe has overinvested a bit into missile units. Wolfric here is in a very unenviable position. The Dragon-Blooded Lord actually made it out of the surrounding surround of the skin wolves, which would have torn her apart. Norsca is currently holding 2 points, but doesn't really have anything to hold the other 2 ones. The 2 ones I have. This will easily fall early, and this one is a bit tricky. Cathay could easily overextend and take really bad trades out of their out of the range from their guns and artillery, because they need that to really properly fight. So if they go for this could be a trap, and I guess the Cathay player knows that. And they aren't in a bad point position again. Aren't yet in a bad point position where they have to push for all points, which is often something that Cathay gets into. We've seen the Norsca player going at 3k reinforcement points again. That's like you see here, for actually more. That's 8 simple Marauder units if you go for the cheap ones. You can run into problems, especially on big maps, where you can't summon anything anymore because all your stuff was on the field, was killed, not completely killed, but started routing, and is still in the process of going back into your reinforcement pool. So you can run into those situations, but I don't think that was the case here. So letting this supply stack up like this is wasted. That's, if anything, I'd say that is what is gonna lose Norsca the game. Cathay has taken back the point, this point for a longer time already. It's the usual progression of Cathay. They take the points early and then retreat from them, basically, to have the enemy fight into their guns, where they can shoot them. And then they have to defeat the opponent's army so hard that they can push forward again and take the points. And that is usually what Cathay struggles with. This phase where they take the points back. Because they're slow and don't... No, not really slow, but they don't have a lot of full capture rate units, and they need missile units to do their work because their melee infantry can't really fight well. Or is too few to really fight well. And pushing forward with missile units is really difficult if you don't completely control the mobility. You see here, those Ice Wolves could have taken the Iron Hells here, but instead they charge into spears, which is a bit of a bad pick. Okay. Yeah, could have waited a bit longer to not friendly fire your Ice Wolves, but probably was still worth it. Unit is routed. Here, Marauder Berserkers get fully charged, and I'd charge the Empress Chromans into their back. Actually, it's surprisingly hard damage that they take from the Jade Lancers. Jade Lancers are a good unit. Ah, he did what I said. Great. Jade Lancers are a good unit, but I thought that the Berserkers, like, the charge bonus is done for, and I thought that they'd completely fall off after that. Norsca is getting a bit back here. Some attempts for this point. Like, the presence of Cathay isn't that strong here. Most of their guns are somewhere here and also for a large part empty. So now would be a good time for a resurgence. But crane gunners. Jeez, this Cathay build is heavy into shooting. 2 fire rains, 2 crane, 5 crossbows, and at least 2 iron hell gunners. They're making good use of it, but only because they have currently such an overwhelming army advantage that they can protect their guns easily. And that, yeah, it's something that they had for the most part of the game, mainly because Norsca was so slow with using their reinforcement pool. Yeah, those units here definitely could take the point, but I don't think they can with this shooting power behind them. The firing rocket is a bit awkwardly blocked from this air vent, whatever it is. But especially the cranes, they will murder the infantry here. They will murder the ice trolls. But they take the point first. This is interesting. The points currently are equal because Norsca had such a big lead because they held for a while triple cap when they did their first approach. And currently Cathay has so much power here but doesn't really dare pushing in here. Now they do, but they're very reluctant doing that, and well, with a good reason. As I explained, they want to stay with their guns in range. Wolfric getting into the crane gunner, shutting it down, and that's a good pick. Now this frontier is in open running. The Jade Lancers might be able to stabilize it. But they will struggle getting this point back too. Casto's doing good work. But Cathay is taking this side. Here, some other champions. Oh, there's 2 champions. This means he had already again banked 2k resources. I would have now used it on something that I can summon from the Vanguard deployment here. I don't know what they currently have in reinforcement, so it might not be possible, but now would have been a good time for Ice Hounds, like 2 of them, to stop this point from being taken. But those champions, they should be able to just take it back. The question is how fast, because the cavalry can block them off the points, and that should be their job now. If this hasn't been lost, Norsca would probably now force Cathay into a triple cap situation, where they have to hold every point on the map, which is a nightmare for Cathay that really doesn't want to move forward. Yeah, here the right choice would be to push the Marauder champions onto the point, force them onto the point, but nah, doesn't really work. That's a good cast. That's gonna be a good cast. Yeah. And with that, those are just peasant horsemen. They will break in a second, and then Norsca takes us back. But they missed this chance where they can force them into triple cap. Now this point is gonna be taken rather quickly as soon as the full infantry unit of the Jade Warriors crossbows will get onto the point. And even though they take this point back, now probably also rather quickly, yeah, actually quite good damage of the Dragon Breath here. It's 0 armor piercing, so into the 80 armor of the Marauder champions, it's not optimal, but as the unit is also quite expensive, that kinda makes up for it. And the point gets taken back, but yeah, this one is fallen, so actually
Woeful
overtaken
tidings.
in points,
The
and they
enemy
have
has
the double
captured
cap.
one of
So.
your victory points.
And
Take it
I
back.
don't see how Norsca now in not even 2 minutes would be able to take back a point, and they likely also have to take back 3 points now, because by the time they would get a point, they needed to triple cap. In the end phases, this can really flip around rather quickly. Hounds, yes, they have a lot of capture weight, and it's actually getting the two crossbows here, but they aren't enough. They aren't enough. Yeah, moving the Ruler champion here is kinda pointless. You have 40 seconds left. They can't even arrive in that time. Losing this point for it. Yeah. Yeah. You see just the numerical advantage of Cathay now is so crushing, but it it didn't need to be this way. That Norsca really took so long to get their supplies banned was a really big blunder. And as you see how close that is, if they
I
had
knew
done
it.
this, even if they had
Unending glory
only
is
used
yours.
them to throw pointless bodies onto the point to just hold 1 point 30 seconds longer, uh, yeah, maybe 2 points 30 seconds longer, which is by no means a fast stretch. If you have 3000 reserves banked, you can just throw 20 capture weight onto a point with 4 infantry units, no problem. It will take a while to take the point against them, as you have to kill them, probably as you don't have enough capture weight to take 20 down, or have to outcapture them, which really slows down the point capture. Uh, Replay, and let's have some look at the values afterwards. I think the they didn't do super great. One did. I don't know if they were double summoned, I don't think so. But they had a bit of an awkward firing position, since this air vent railing or whatever there was in the way of their perfect shooting lines, and for the other ones they had to make sure to not friendly fire, so it was a bit awkward. And really using 2 of them and 5 crossbows and 2 crane gunners and 2 iron hills, that's a lot of shooting, and it's obvious that Cathay then will struggle to take points because they have no money spent, no money left for infantry. Being said, they had most of the infantry, of their cheap infantry, like the Jade Warriors and the Peasant Spears. Though, especially against Norsca, you really can go for some halberd units to hold off trolls, ice wolves, and something. So maybe cutting one of the fire rain rockets for a dragon guard or just a halberd unit would have been a better approach. It was important that there was a lot of shelling, but I don't know if you needed 2 of them. The crossbows did great. I don't know, some of them certainly got double summoned. So I'm not super sure how good their values were exactly. They also ate a lot of magic, so you need to see that in context. the caster got a lot of value, but also did some dangerous melee actions. So I'm. It's yeah, you can't complain about almost 2k value. You really can't. Um, could have started earlier with casting since he really was unopposed and you can't really dodge the Dragon Breath because it's such a fast cast. Wolfric, yeah, he got into multiple guns, crane gunners, one of the fire rain rockets, and made its value there. The caster was really good, and yeah, good spell. Similar to the Flying Lord here, did some. He was less crazy with the actions. He was hunted a bit more by the caster. They got shelled. Yeah, a lot of the values here won't be really good because they got deleted by ranged, and then some suddenly have really good values because they were the ones that came last and walked into the guns and got those juicy values. Oh yeah, some ice hounds were there. I actually don't know if they have anger deployment. I thought they would have, but they might not. Yeah, there were certainly situations where he should have had them on the field just to have capture weight. And rain gunners, yeah, I like them better than the fire rain rockets. They are more reliable. They of course don't have the range, not the same range. Hmm. They are a good deterrent if things come into your backfield, but once they have to walk out in the open field, they get a bit of a problem. Though the damage is crazy, so you force your enemy's hand really. And yeah, very close game actually. I think if Norsca had, well, done a simple thing, they would have crushed, not crushed, but uh, stalled the Cathayans for long enough to win on points. Uh, Cathay build, I think, was way too heavy into shooting. And yeah, with this, I end it here. See you on the next one.